times.
All right, top of the agenda.
Let's go.
They dispensed with the pleasantries at the tribunal tonight. It might have been delayed, but it did nothing to dull the case with Lance Franklin, the striking charge that had been brought against him. The interaction was, well, it was fiercer and more feisty than you typically see at the tribunal, as the Swans did everything to beat the rap. They have been unsuccessful, although there were no beg your pardons. Franklin is suspended for a week. Drew Jones followed this case as it was unfolding. Drew, she was a good one.
Robbo and Jerry, good evening to you. So, from all angles tonight, Tribunal 360, the Swans came hard at this one. So they said the strike wasn't actually a strike under the definition of the term. They said it was careless and not intentional. And they said all of that failing, the impact is not low, it's negligible. So as they go at it, it was a sparring match to match Sunday, I reckon, Jared, in particular. So Lance Franklin spoke. He said, "No way would I ever do that to anyone. It's not in the spirit of the game." He also said he didn't recall making any contact with Cotchin's face, and that he even bumped Cotchin afterwards because he thought that he had overplayed the contact, and that was noted later on by the Swans. So the two legal counsels, in Andrew Woods and Duncan Miller, they went at each other. There were barbs thrown. So Duncan Miller said that Cotchin won't get an invite to the Brownlow this season. He'll go to the Logies instead for that performance and the way that he reacted to the open palm to the face. Came back the other way. Cowardly and brazen is what Andrew Woods called Franklin's action, and I'll refer to this specifically. He says, Franklin did mean to hit Cotchin. He was angry with Cotchin and he intended to hit him in the face. A lot of discussion about whether this was actually a strike, the talk about intentional. So Franklin pushes Cotchin first and then he goes back with the open palm again and hits him on the chin. It was noted by the Swans that it can't be intentional because the act that he was doing was not a strike, it was just a push. And that was noted by Jeff Gleeson, who talked about what the definition of intentional was. After all the sparring back and forth, which went for over an hour, they deliberated for half an hour and eventually came back with the guilty verdict. So it was said by Jeff Gleeson, the tribunal chair. The strike was swift and direct. It was more forceful than the push that came before it. It was aggressive and it was forceful. Mr. Franklin intended to strike Mr. Cotchin. He was looking directly at him. His response was spontaneous as intended. Fight Club or MMA, that was what it was referred to by the AFL. There's kids and families watching and this is not an acceptable act in the game.
Drew, thank you. This has pushed your buttons, Robbo, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has actually.
Which part?
Oh, the personal insults.
To Trent Cotchin?
Oh, to Trent Cotchin. I mean, Trent Cotchin's a three-time premiership captain. He's as tough as they come. And his name's Duncan Miller, the Swans counsel. And for Duncan Miller to sit there and say, oh, he won't be going to the Brownlow, he'll be going to the Logies, I reckon that's pretty insulting, actually. I mean, if he wanted to act, he could have fallen to the ground.
Oh, I thought on the night when it happened, I thought he looked after Franklin.
Yeah, so did I. I think that's pathetic, actually. I don't know. Well, of course I don't know Duncan Miller, and he might not care what I think, but I think that's pathetic. And I also think it's pathetic for the... tell me who said it, who called Franklin cowardly.
Well, so the action, rather than... So it was... So the AFL's counsel, and it's precisely what the AFL players should know not to do. There's kids watching, families watching. It's cowardly. It's not Fight Club or some combat sport.
Yeah, but it's Franklin's cowardly action, right? So why are we going there? Just deal with the facts. Don't throw in these adjectives. They're just not good. Just argue what you have to argue and leave it up to the tribunal. I think that was really weak by the Swans Council to say that about Cotchin. Your thoughts?
Well, because Cotchin's not there, I am inclined to agree. I was really startled by it. The cases don't usually run like this.
No, they don't.
It was much more entertaining than they typically are, for the reason that it was more personal. Usually it's all around biomechanics and frame by frames, but it did get to character. It didn't surprise me at all. It was swift and direct. It comfortably constitutes a strike. Well, of course it does. The Swans made a good case, but in the end, he hit him on the chin.
Yeah, I know.
And that was it. They were never beating that.
I wonder if Duncan Miller saw Cotchin stand in front of a rampaging Lance Franklin minutes later and said, get up, you're acting. It's got me a bit hot under the collar.
Yeah, I know. When you walked in, I thought, oh, right.
I said to you, I want to talk about this cake.
Yep.
No good.